Hello and welcome back to the channel. What you're about to see now is an interview I did with someone called Daniel Korth and his 4 friends that are in films on YouTube. His channel is called Daniel Korth Films. It will be in the description and I really recommend you go and watch his 4 films. They're very short, they're about 10 minutes long each, and they're very thought-provoking and abstract, and I really recommend you go watch them. So, enjoy the video, and here's the interview. Hello, I'm here with Daniel Korth and some of the actors from his films on YouTube, Orlando, Nathan, and Hugo. Hello, everyone.
Hello, thanks for having us.
So, Daniel, the new film is called Alpha. Quite an interesting name, so why have you called it Alpha?
Well, I think overall it's sort of an ironic title because the film charts the journey of Orlando's character, who goes through a drastic sort of character arc, and throughout most of the film he's a victim of circumstance, and only at the very end he makes a sort of decision which is obviously a very drastic and sort of ultimately an evil decision, but he's making a decision and acting out of his own accord for the first time, which is typically what you say is an alpha thing to do, doing what you want. So it's sort of that irony of him becoming a very sort of twisted alpha in
I see that
opinion.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting choice there. I didn't really think of that. What was the vision you were trying to achieve with the film? Because there's quite a lot of show not tell, like visual storytelling in it.
Ultimately, I think it's sort of a study of masculinity. With Nathan's character, you've got a very sort of sadistic character who hides it by being incredibly childish. Like, it seems like he treats everything like a game, but at the basis, I think he's purely sadistic, the character. So you've got themes of that, and then the whole masculinity thing, insecurity, motherhood, parenthood. So that's a vision I had.
For you, Daniel, Orlando, and Nathan, what was your favourite moment while filming the film?
Yeah, probably. So there's 2 incredibly long shots which are introducing both of the characters, and I would say filming both of them. Like the one for Orlando is when he realises he's lost his mother. It's a long take. I think it's almost a minute long, but with that sort of thing, because I scripted it actually in a different place. So we were sort of making up a lot of it on the spot, and then Orlando was so sort of a lot of initiative and everything came up with these ideas, and I love working with people who are being creative as well. Likewise with Nathan's shot, because it was in his house, he knew where everything was, so he was coming up with ideas for where we could place objects, whatever. I love filming both of them.
I mean, I'd echo what Daniel said about the long shot at the start of the film, but also kind of at the opposite end of the film, at the very last scene, when I strangled my mother. Obviously that was quite a tricky shot to film, and actually kind of learning how to do a strangle without actually strangling someone was quite interesting and quite fun to do. And obviously that was like 11 o'clock at night after a long day of filming, so it was quite a good way to top the day off.
I'd definitely second that. I mean, I think the last scene like perfectly captured the essence of the film, and it was so eerie and just like it was incredibly done. I think like the lighting and everything, and just the 2 actresses really like chopping it off. I thought that was definitely the highlight of the film.
Speaking of the actresses, what was it like to work with professionals? Because you've never done that before, really.
There was kind of 2 sides to it, because obviously it was really like kind of rewarding and interesting to work with people who really knew what they were doing and had done lots of it before, but also a little bit intimidating because I was kind of, they were so good and like, you know, just little old me just doing my bit, you know. And so at first I was a bit kind of, I guess, like slightly worried they were going to judge me, but honestly it was fine. So it was really interesting because I guess they kind of had tips and, you know, suggestions which you can only get from people who've done it a lot.
Yeah, I think definitely bouncing off them sort of lifted, I think it just lifted my performance and Orlando's performance as well, and I think it just really helped the film.
Especially in that last scene, which you really touched on, because it was the end of the day, and there's a lot of shots which are very dialogue heavy in that, and to be able to grind them out so quickly, because I think we did most of them in one take, to be honest. I think because lots of dialogue was theirs. Without having professionals, they couldn't have done it so convincingly without having many more takes.
I think for a very small YouTube channel, I think it's very cool to have professional actors on there, and hopefully you can work with more professionals in the future. Were there also any challenges that you encountered?
The biggest challenge was when we were trying to film this scene with me in the graveyard and Orlando.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Oh my god, yeah. This took way longer than it was supposed to. I don't know, we were standing there for like 45 minutes trying to get the sun to go away, like go behind a cloud, just to get like concise, like the same lighting throughout the scene.
There's a long story of sort of actually it getting made at all, because originally for GCSE Arts at my old school, they let us do whatever we wanted basically. So I would make short films. I actually made a couple for it. And I wrote this for the third GCSE art project. It's going to be the final piece. Then I couldn't make it because either Orlando or Nathan, one of you had a half term back in February taken up, couldn't do it then, so I sort of gave up on ever making it. Then in summer I thought, let's pick this up again. Nice little project. I originally actually planned for Orlando and Nathan's mums to play their mums, which would have been sort of an interesting experiment. But then it turned out Orlando's mum couldn't do it. So I contacted Annie, who's a family friend, who's a professional actress. She said sure, and also actually recommended Sophie, who's a friend of hers, to play Nathan's mum. Got them involved, and we were actually able to do it. Day before we were filming, we planned to shoot the final scene in Nathan's living room, and then understandably, his parents weren't comfortable with having so many people in the room. So I thought, I know what we're going to do. Turned out there's a little gazebo in Nathan's garden. We filmed it there, sort of last minute thing. I actually personally think it works better than it would have done otherwise. And then I eventually got the film made, but it sort of felt like was destined to be made at some point, to be honest.
Nathan, in the comments of the video, said that it was a very ambitious project. Was it because of how, like, you shot it throughout the whole day, literally day and then night, and then like 3 different locations? I think that's quite a lot more than, for example, Skulker.
Yeah, I was absolutely just shattered at the end of the day. You know, I literally just collapsed into my bed. It was a brilliant day. I had great fun. It was awesome filming experience. Definitely, probably one of my favourites. But yeah, took it out of me.
It was like, in terms of just the kind of concept of the film itself, I guess it was kind of an abstract concept in a way, but I think the audience is confused about what the characters' motives are, really, because you kind of think they're quite innocent motives, really, and then quite soon you realise that maybe they're not quite so innocent, and then at the end of the film you realise they're really not very innocent at all.
So is there any scene in particular that you're really proud of? Like, you did say, Daniel, that you were really proud of the 2 longer shots.
To be honest, I'm happy with the whole film overall, because I think it's probably the closest I've got to realising my original vision out of any of my films. But yeah, I'd probably, if I had to pick one, it's probably Nathan's long shot, because there's so much going on with subtext there. Like, I don't know, I really like the moment where he shoots the teddy bear with a Nerf gun, because that's sort of foreshadowing shooting his own mother and everything.
Good point.
And then it's, Nathan's got a very unique way of acting comedically, which I just love. I love to point the camera at it. So I'd say probably that moment.
Orlando and Nathan, how would you describe your characters? Like, what are their motives, really? Like, you have said that they're quite twisted, but what would you say their real motives are?
At the heart of it, Finn wants to escape the kind of suppression that his mother is kind of exerting upon him, and escape her control over him. Throughout the film, you kind of see Finn as not an independent character, because like the first shot of the film is him basically realizing that his pills aren't there, and you know, he relies on his mum to get his pills. That's not something, despite, you know, being a teenager, it's not something he can do for himself almost. He relies on his mum for every kind of step of the way in his life. So you realize that he's basically relies on his mum, and you think that the kind of solution of that is to find his mum, and then everything will be better. But actually, when he finds his mum, as you find out at the end, he kills his mum. So he's not actually longing for that kind of, I guess, coveting and protection that his mum has given to him. He actually wants to escape that, and that is his kind of ultimate motive.
Yeah,
His
Alex
motives
is
are.
he's a pretty complicated character, but I think he's pretty similar to Finn, as in, you know, his mother also convinced him to kidnap Finn's mother, so he's sort of oppressed by his mum as well. But I think to a lesser extent, he's a lot more independent, and you know, he's definitely a lot more daring than Finn, kidnapping Finn's mum and everything. And I think he sort of definitely influences Finn throughout the film because he's quite manic, sadistic, you know. But then again, he's also childlike, so he really just sort of twists Finn's character to become what it ultimately becomes, really.
When you said he was daring and twisted, it's like when Finn points a gun at Alex in the graveyard. You just stand there like it's nothing. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, wow! How are you that calm?"
He's completely oblivious to the danger, anyway.